and therefore I play the move f6. Magnus goes e4, I play e5, and here we get the very interesting move pawn to f4. Now when Magnus plays the move f4 here, he has effectively gotten a king's gambit where black's pawn is on f6 instead of f7, and for that reason, this is probably a much improved version. Now what's funny is when I look at the computer evaluation, even with this pawn on f6 versus the standard f7 square, it still says that white is not much better, which shows what a terrible, terrible opening the king's gambit is and how it is simply not relevant in 2025 and it belongs in the 19th century. So here I play the move pawn to d5, following the basic theme. So when white tries to play on the sides of the board, you try to build a big black center and strike in the middle. So I go d5. Magnus trades on d5, and now he plays the move knight c3, and here I play queen e6. Magnus takes on e5, and now I take back with the pawn. Now initially I thought about taking with the queen here, but after the move bishop to e2, white is actually doing very well here. You'll notice that black has no development here. We have a wayward queen, which has come out at the start of the game, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 pieces, 7 I should say, all on their starting squares, and white's development is very straightforward. For example, knight c6, knight f3, queen e7, white castles, and with d4 coming up next move, bishop comes into the game, rook's coming to the center of the board, and black is in serious trouble here with no development. So that is why I decided to take with the pawn. Magnus goes knight to f3, and here I play the move knight f6. Magnus goes bishop b5 check after a bit of a think. The reason that white cannot get the same developmental advantage after bishop to e2 here is that I can play the move bishop c5, cutting off this king from castling, and now I'm threatening to castle my king, and already black might even have chances to be better. So Magnus goes bishop b5. Here I play c6, he goes bishop a4, and now I play the move e4, trying to harass the horse on f3. Now this move is a very bold stroke by me when I play this move, because when I go e4, this is either going to be a brilliant decision or a move which probably loses the game, since I am neglecting my development of the rook and the bishop and the king. So Magnus goes bishop b3. Here I play the move queen to f5. Probably queen g4 is a little bit better, but it's a very scary move to play because after queen to e2, which guards the pawn, but also pins the pawn on e4 here, bishop e7, knight d4, it feels like this pawn on e4 is a little bit exposed. It's going to be under pressure very quickly. Say takes, let's just say knight d7, for example, and knight g3. Computer thinks black is fine after knight c5, but honestly, in a blitz game where you can't do deep calculations, I just felt that this pawn would be a serious weakness. And on top of that, this is an endgame, which is where Magnus Carlsen excels the most. So I go queen f5. Magnus plays queen e2, I go bishop e7, and now we get the move knight to h4, hitting the queen. Now, one funny note here is that if white plays knight d4, after queen to e5, white has to make a draw by repetition with knight f3 and knight d4, because if you ever go queen to e3 here, it's already spaghetti-o time after a move like bishop c5, although apparently here there's still knight f3, so maybe it's not that good, but I thought this would be dangerous. So Magnus goes knight h4. Now here I spent 1.5 minutes before playing this move queen g4, and the reason for this is what is known as the classic Magnus effect. Now those of you guys who've studied physics in schools, you've got your degrees and everything, you'll know that the Magnus effect is when you play against Magnus Carlsen, and he plays a move that looks wrong, and you feel like you should be able to punish it, and so you spend all your time desperately in vain trying to prove that Magnus has gone wrong. Now the reason I spent so much time is that my initial instinct was to play queen h5 here, but after takes, I was afraid that Magnus could ignore the pony on h4 and simply castrol the king out of the middle of the board, because if I take the horse, there's bishop f7, and after bishop takes h5, this pawn on e4 is super weak. Let's say I go g6, bishop e2, and rook e8, and now white can go rook to f4, creating the kebab on the 4th rank, hitting the bishop and the pawn, and effectively winning the game. So I go queen g4. Magnus trades the queens, and now he decides to play the move g3. Now at this point, I am down 1 minute on the clock. It is an endgame. This is not looking very good for me, and as most people know from my recent recaps, I've generally struggled when I've been low on time. So here I play the move e3. Now this move, in my opinion, is a very good practical decision because I'm gambiting the pawn, but if white takes this pawn, now after a move like rook to f8, white's bishop cannot activate easily, and you're always stuck guarding this pawn on e3. So Magnus plays move d3. This move is a mistake here, but of course Magnus, up a minute on the clock, he wants to try and push me hard, get me low on time, and induce a big blunder. So we get d3. I play rook to f8, and now Magnus plays move h3, and here I go knight to f2, forking the pawn and the rook. Magnus plays rook h2, I go bishop d6 here, and what I'm trying to do now is if, say, white goes a3, after bishop g3, we have a wooden shield, we have all kinds of fossils, and white will lose the game. Magnus plays knight e2 to guard the pawn here, and now I play the move bishop takes h3. Now, one good thing here is that I am down to 5 seconds, but there is an increment, obviously, since it's Title Tuesday, but secondarily, the position is simplifying, so my moves now become easier because when you have less pieces on the board to coordinate, generally it's much easier to tunnel on where things belong. So I take, we get takes, I go knight g4, takes, king d2, knight f1, Magnus goes king e1, and here I play the move knight e3. Now, for a second time in the game, Magnus has the opportunity to make a draw by repetition after king d2 and king e1, but instead he decides not to do it. Now, I'll also point out, if white were to go king c3 here, after a move like a5, there are all kinds of ideas here, like bishop b4, trying to checkmate the king in the middle of the board. There are ideas like a4 and b5 to harass the bishop, and at this point, it's very hard for white to play. So Magnus decides to play rook h1. Now, here I play the move knight d7, we get king d2, and I go knight g4. Now, in this position, Magnus Carlsen makes a big mistake with knight d4. It's also interesting to note, however, that as you've noticed over the last couple of moves, if we just go back here, Magnus at this point in the game right here has 1 minute. He spends 21 seconds. Now he spends 1 second.